Welcome to Sliver Surfer 1. Today we're going to be doing a guide to adapting lenses other than your native lenses to your mirrorless cameras. Okay, we'll talk the reasons why you want to do this and the different types of adapters that you can get. Okay, the number one reason why you'd want to adapt certain lenses to your mirrorless cameras because you're switching from one system to another. If you're going from a Sony Alpha system to the next FE system, you can get this adapter here, which is the LA EA4. You can find some good autofocus lenses with it. This one here is a Sigma high-speed wide 28 1 to 1.8. Super cheap compared to your Sony lenses. This one's actually from the Minolta Alpha series, the Maxim cameras. But that's not your only option for adapting lenses. And if you don't have a Sony camera like a Fuji, which is just as good as Sony, or any other mirrorless camera that you prefer, you may have another system, say Pentax or Canon or Nikon or DSLRs, and you want to switch over to that and you want to use it some of your old lenses. So what we can do here is I started with a Pentax system. And there's no way I could give up using a lens like this. This is the SMC Pentax A 1 to 1.2 50mm lens. It's an awesome lens. I've got my adapter here. It's just a cheap Fotka PK Nex. I always go for the cheapest adapters. If they don't work, I can move on to the next one and save money. They cost about $10-11 online. Usually what I do, you can see here there's a blue line. I'll put an elastic around that just to keep extra dust out. They just fit in nice and easy, and then you can put it on your Pentax, on your mirrorless camera as easy as pie, and focus it manually, and you change your aperture manually. Okay, so that's one reason why you want to do it. You may have Nikon lenses. I don't have a Nikon system, but most people either have Canon, Pentax, or Nikon. So the Nikons are very popular. This lens here, fantastic lens. It's a Nikkor P 105mm to 2.5. This is a world famous legendary lens. Excellent lens. Very sharp, wide open. Okay, another reason why you'd want to switch to a mirrorless system, adapting to a mirrorless system, is getting lenses from other systems that will not work on DSLRs because of the mirror that they have in there takes up so much space that you can't adapt it without an optical piece between the lens and the camera. So you can get real cheap lenses from other systems, like the Minolta MD system. Okay. That won't fit on Pentax or Nikon. I'm not sure about Canon, but it won't fit on there without optical lens between the DSLR and that. So you have to use that on a mirrorless camera. I've got a Fotka on there. Okay, the Konica Hexanon. Why is that a nice lens? They're going up in price, these ones, but you can still get them really cheap. This one's a 35 to 2.8 I love this lens. It's fantastic. Konica, they're really well built. Let's see, it's the Konica to next mount. Okay. And oh, here's another one. The Olympus OM system. These are like renowned for being sharp. They're really nice lenses. They're so small too. They're tiny, so they work really well on your camera. And they're really well built. They feel so nice. As for getting lenses that are expensive on other systems, you have something like these two lenses here. All right, this one here is Vivitar Series 1. Okay, Vivitar Series 1s are, you know, the older ones are fantastic. They're really good. The pre autofocus ones are fantastic. This one's a 70 to 210 3.5, and it's super sharp wide open. If you were to get this lens in a Pentax, a Nikon mount, it's going to cost you probably about $150 $200. But I got it in the FD mount, which, you know, it's an obsolete mount. So I got this one, I think, for about $30 or $40, and it's an excellent lens. A little heavy, but it's well built. Okay, now this one here is the Tokina ATX 80 to 200 2.8. Now, if you were to get this in a Nikon or Pentax mount, which still fits on the new DSLRs, it would cost you maybe $200 to $400. But since I got this in the Contax Yashica mount to Nex, it cost me under $100, because, you know, nobody, you know, there's so many DSLRs out there, Nikon and Pentax, but these won't work on it. You put an optical between it, and it's going to bump up the. It's going to lessen the quality. It's going to bump up the slowness of this. But it's a fantastic lens as well. Okay, another thing you can do is you got this L39, which you'd never ever. This is from a rangefinder camera. You'd never ever be able to put this on a DSLR unless you're going to use it as a macro lens. So these, you know, you get a little tiny adapter, and these are fantastic on little mirrorless cameras because they're so tiny, and you get that rangefinder feeling. This is a Leica mount. Okay, that Leica L39. This is an Industar Russian lens. There's a lot of these around, so it's a good one to start with. They're pretty good. There's a little one for petering around. And also, I can't forget to mention this guy here. This is the Canon lens FD. There's a lot of these, like so many of these around, and you can get these lenses dirt cheap because they don't have a very good reputation compared to the old Pentax and the old you know, Nikons. They're not even as good as the you know, old Hexanons or Olympus, but they're still really good lenses, right? They can compete with a lot of the lenses nowadays, and they're dirt cheap, and they're very light because they're made out of plastic most of the times. Okay, another reason why you'd want to use a mirrorless camera with the adapted lenses is because you can do things like okay, we got an M42 lens here. M42 is probably the first adapter you want to get. Now, myself, I've got a couple different adapters for these. I got a standard one, but right here, there are adapters with some really neat mechanical qualities. This one here, you turn it, right, and it becomes a adapter. So any lens you put on here will become a tilt lens, and you get those really neat miniaturized looking shots. Or you can put your plane of focus across an entire field or surface of a building at a lower aperture. So that's fantastic. All right, here we have the PC Nikkor 35mm 2.8. PC stands for perspective control, okay? Which means this lens has a built-in shift. See this dial? You can shift this lens so that you can change the perspective. Like if you've got a building that you're looking at that's very tall or very long, you twist this and it'll turn that pyramid-looking building. You know, you look up at it, the top is thin, the bottom is wide. You turn this, and you can turn that building back into a cube or square it up. But what I've added onto this is a tilt shift. I'm sorry, a tilt adapter. See this adapter? It's a Fotka. I think this thing was $30 or $40, and it's now this lens is a tilt shift lens, which is fantastic. All right, so we'll move on to our next type of mechanical adapter, okay? And this one is a helicoid, okay, or heliocoid. And what happens is you turn it and you can expand it to a larger size. Now, the super tachymers and all the Pentax tachomer lenses, they're an amazing lens. So, the very first adapters I've got were the M43s, because they're such fantastic lenses for filming and for taking pictures. This one's super sharp and super cheap. It was the kit lens on all of the early Spotmatic cameras, 55 to 1.8. The coated ones are better. I actually like the ones that are yellow because they've got thorium on them, and that's cool using the radioactive lens, but it's not going to hurt you. But anyways, you put this on there, the super sharp lens, and it's turned into a macro lens now. You got your infinity focus, and you got your macro, which is fantastic. You can also turn this as well. Alright, so we'll move that to the side. There's also another type of adapter that you might want to get, the EOS to NEX adapter. Okay, I use this with the Rokinons, you know, the Rokinon Samyang and the other cheap but very good lenses that are manual focus, brand new. And for Canon, since Canon's almost like tons of people have Canons, I've never owned one myself, but there's so many people out there with Canons that it's really easy to find lenses that'll fit on this. You can actually get this with a dial that will control the aperture and the other lenses, but I use this for the Samyang and the Rokinon ones that have an adapter ring built into the actual lens. So yeah, I have an 8mm Samyang, and I've got a 85mm 1.4 Rokinon that I use on this. And I also have a helicoid version of this as well. So I turn my 85 into a macro, which is good for portrait shoots and whatnot, if you want to get the hands of babies or feet of babies, or, you know. But the other bonus to this is, because there's so many Canon cameras out there, you have a lens like this, the Voigtlander. This goes on the, I believe it's the Bessa. This is the DKL lens. If you got the adapter for a Sony for this, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. But I got this one, and this is a Canon EOS to DKL. All right, so or DKL to Canon Voigtlander adapter. So you can actually put this on your. You can stack it with your Canon, like that. Stack it like that, and then you can put your little Voigtlander lens on there. Okay, gotta mention this as well. I'm not familiar with every single mirrorless system out there or every camera out there, but when you're putting a lens that's not native on your camera, you have to go into the settings of your camera and find a place where it'll say enable your camera to fire itself without a lens attached, because your camera has no idea what kind of lenses these are. All it does is it figures out what the exposure will be, okay, through the lens. And also, don't be afraid to use flash on them, because that'll work as well.